Hello and welcome to my channel. So this video will be another sketchbook tour video. It's a bit long delayed. I kept intending to do it for this one as I've finished this one a couple of months back by now, but I hope you enjoy nonetheless. So for this sketchbook, it's an Ohuhu sketchbook. It's, I believe, 8 by 8 or something. Let me see, I have like a thing. Yeah, it looks to be 8 inches by 8 inches. It's mixed media paper. So it does work with a lot of different medias like watercolor, and I did even use a little bit of marker, but not too much of it. It still kind of bleeds through. I'm sure their actual marker, they do have like a marker sketchbook variant, and I think that probably works a lot better. It still might bleed through. I'm not entirely sure. Never tried it, mostly because I use watercolors and on occasion markers. This sketchbook also has a lot of pages, like a lot. It's like one of the most, so it's definitely a good bang for your buck, as it was about $30. I think it was like a $2 off coupon at the time. I feel like those pop up a lot for these particular sketchbooks. And that's also Canadian dollars, so for you Americans it's probably gonna be a lot cheaper. And I don't know about anybody else, but yeah, I always see a lot of art supplies anybody's ever talking about for America, so it always feels like it's a lot cheaper, and it's not even the conversion. And so, but it's still a lot better than some of the sketchbooks you can get here in our stores, just because it just will have less paper essentially. So I got more. Even the slightly larger sizes are only a couple of bucks more or something. So yeah, definitely worth it. I really enjoy the paper. It's aside from, I think, the Kansan mixed media, it's similar to that, only it feels softer by the touch if you're a very tactile person and like to feel paper. But yeah, but getting into it, yeah, this sort of like beginning splash thing was not the first thing I actually drew. It was definitely one of the last things I drew when finishing off the sketchbook. But yeah, and yeah, it's clearly too much playing of MiHoYo games. So the true start to this was the classic where I just kind of test out the papers. I'm not really a plan out type of person for what my sketchbook spreads are, even though, you know, I'm like making videos, just because like sketchbooks I like to leave realistic, and on occasion if I feel like working on a test finished piece or something, it will end up looking like a finished piece, but otherwise I treat it as a sketchbook where I'm just experimenting and seeing how it goes. And as I think I've mentioned before, you can use, like, the marker doesn't necessarily bleed through with like a little bit of use, but they do have a marker pad variant, so if you're more into markers, Ohuhu also has all these variants that are also just for markers and more of that type of thing. I started the sketchbook mid-Inktober, so there's a lot of witchy themes and stuff that I've posted for Inktober. Because there's a lot, by the way, of pages in this sketchbook, I'll kind of go over, or like glaze over some and not really go into detail any of the sketchiest stuff, but it's just an example of the works. So this was just I think a test for one of the prompts. Must have been like sky. I wasn't following a specific Inktober, like the main one. It was somebody else's sort of side one, which I completely forgot. I think it was Mystical Witchtober or something like that. So yeah, and then standard thing that I usually enjoy to draw is random one-off comic pages. That's always fun to attempt, and even attempting to write not chicken scratch, because usually my standard handwriting is pretty terrible. So this was like a little bit of fun to do. More Inktober drawings of cat pumpkin with watercolor, just a basic inking work. I wasn't entirely a fan of the way I did the face. The side view I feel like I struggle with when I'm just drawing from imagination sometimes. A lot more practicing drawing heads, which, funny enough, I feel like looks a lot better than like in the future images in these sketchbook. Then this in particular was just me sketching, I don't know if you can make that out, but of the background I had drawn out for where I'm displaying a bunch of the figurines I have, especially the Kyojiro one, just because the shelf itself is not, it's kind of very ugly one with like no actual backing, and it's this really weird like yellow wood one, but it's such a good shelf quality-wise that I feel bad getting rid of and just buying a new one. So I just decided to stick a background in it, and it turned out pretty good. I think I might pop in an image or something. I don't know if it entirely looks cheesy, but it looks better than what was like looking at the shelf part itself. And then this is probably one of my most successful marker drawings I've ever done, and it's an Inktober prompt. I forget what the prompt was, but it's definitely one of my favorite drawings, and I was inspired by Hades quite a bit for this one, so that's kind of like the style I was slightly inspired by for it. And I think the purple itself though was highlighter or something, so I was just going for a very sketchy background sort of thing. So yeah, that was quite fun. More Inktober, the sketch of what that turned out to be. And like I said, like doing marker, it does bleed through a bit because I did quite a bit of heavy layering. Another good thing I think that comes with Ohuhu sketchbooks is you always get like this sort of plasticky thing just to note, which is great if you happen to be worried that you will bleed through with any kind of medium you're using. So that's a great bonus. Also, it comes with like a pocket thing, which is super useful because I usually will store a few things here and there. And more sketchy stuff. Inktober, I think, prompt, and then just an extension of it. So doing this kind of fairy character. I'm not entirely sure if I had an exact inspiration for it or not, so it could be completely from my imagination. It could be like something that looks completely similar to something out there. I don't even remember. So this one was an attempt at trying to draw a transparent lace top. It was like a mesh one. I think this was legitimately like a shirt advertised to me on Amazon or something. I assumed it was gonna look a lot worse if I actually bought it, so I just thought I'd try it. I'm pretty sure it looked entirely like this, so yeah, just a fun attempt at trying transparency, but I think I went too light with the ink wash or something that I initially put down, because it was first ink wash I put down and then the watercolor, but everything ended up a bit too pale because sometimes when you're applying certain mediums like watercolor, at least for me, it always feels like it's a lot brighter, more vibrant until it dries. So always my problem is contrast, so things sometimes turn paler because because I'm always too afraid to layer on. So if I ever did something like that again, I definitely need to layer on a bit more so there'd be a little more obvious contrast. But this was still a lot of fun to paint. Lace can be kind of complicated, but also very fun. And it was also a very fun pattern to attempt to paint. Again, Inktober, and I think I didn't want to like sketch too much on the other side, or yeah, sometimes I just don't end up filling a page and I just go back. More attempts at just a random one-off, but more like with my original character. And I think it was some kind of, I don't even know what the story was, but it was just, I guess, the idea of getting a sketchy email or something while working in a cafe. And I think there was originally supposed to be a background or like him looking out into the city street, but I didn't end up inking it, so I forgot. And yeah. Then a little bit of pose practices and some random attempts at I don't know what. Sometimes I think I'm messing around with styles. I'm trying to like, I think this phase I was trying to make larger eyes for female characters when I was drawing them, but this is just, in my opinion, I was not a fan of it, but I just left it, you know. This heavily reminds me of there's some show I think that's constantly playing on some channel that's Canadian. It's like, it's supposed to be in Toronto in like some period of time, I forget exactly, 1900s, and definitely reminds me of the character from that, even though I don't think I was referencing the character from that at all. So but I watched plenty of that hilariously while I was in Serbia, the most. I don't know why. I don't even know what channel it was playing on and how we were like watching that, but yeah. To continue on, this was like, I guess, my more successful sketch page, I should say, and these were used, I think, with references, I believe. Probably that one, I'm guessing maybe that one, and I think that one, and then some is like a hybrid of using references and my own kind of attempts. Hair is also another thing I struggle with, like long hair, when I just really want like some kind of very wavy, whimsical hair. I tend to just make the ugliest curls or something, and I forget how hair works. My brain just refuses to comprehend that. And then this, I think I had gold ink left over from something, and I saw this technique somebody used where just like the whatever gold ink or paint or whatever you have left over, just like paint an entire, like just use it up on the entire page just so you can just mess around with it. And that's kind of what I did here. And then I decided to draw Spider-Man, which with more ink, and that actually turned out really fun and cool. I really enjoyed that, and just adding the white in and stuff. So this was fun. I did not draw the webbing part of his outfit though. Sometimes I forget that. I don't know why. When I draw him, I completely forget that part. I guess I'm always so focused on making sure I get the body right that everything else becomes, you know, kind of secondary, and I totally forget, because I did it here but not there. So yeah, I might have also gotten lazy, and you know, you have to put a little bit more effort in. Again, it's a sketchbook, so you don't really have to finish it because it's just for yourself, right? Then Invincible, I think that's when the show finally got back, or when they were announcing it for the millionth time that it was finally coming around. So I drew him. I think that, oh yeah, this was an original pose, which is probably badly done because he looks very stiff here. I think that was also kind of some, oh no, an original pose I drew, and then a direct copy. So I'm trying to read my own notes here, what I put. And this, I guess, was like a direct copy, but probably also a very badly done direct copy. And this was my attempt at foreshadowing, but it looks very weird and whatever. I did copy the way that for the background for the show itself, I think. I was just trying to like emulate that because I really like the colors, and was trying to see if I could kind of replicate it with watercolors. So that was a lot of fun to do. Overall, I really enjoyed it. I just know the pose is a bit jank. Like this hand in particular probably could have been in a completely different position, because it just kind of looks like he's trying to lightly give somebody a fist bump or something as opposed to flying forward. So that's fun. But I'm really happy that the watercolors that I had just like turned out perfect for his outfit. Maybe this part's like a bit lighter than it should be, but the vibrancy turned out great. Then more sketching, and often when I do, I guess, a more complete work, I don't actually then, I avoid painting on top of it just in case, because then another great thing about these sketchbooks is they come with perforated edges, so if you want to tear it out, you can, and it's really great for that. I also did a little bit more experimenting of like painting if somebody was like in a night shot or something with watercolors, which I really love, because I think I saw this on the front of this kind of like look on the front of some kind of comic book, which I don't know what it is, but it kind of looked, I can't really even say what it was, because it was just like Instagram. Unfortunately, you kind of doom scroll and you see it and then it passes by, and now I don't even remember exactly what I was sort of reminded of and referencing, but it looked really cool. At least the cover itself, I really like that sort of like blue tones skin, and it looked really neat for like a night shot or something if you're painting. So yeah, I really want to actually one of these days do a finished painting more of this, because I did attempt it in a previous sketchbook and a little bit more finished work, but I never an actual complete one. It was just another sketch kind of thing. And then I was also practicing with some, I think this is just watercolors, but I think I was using a very wide brush, wide flat brush, so this part kind of turned out messy, and then going for a cityscape color. It's like one of my favorite colors to kind of mix. And then I did the same here, but I used acrylic wash for the city itself when doing all this part, which is always a fun combo, because acrylic wash you can't lift, and then watercolor is really nice for the background, so it's a nice combo to do. I think I could probably do this also with gouache possibly, but then gouache in the end, because it's always lean over fat. You can always like layer on top thicker and darker layers. So yeah, because anyway, for my acrylic wash, unfortunately, I think this color also dried up in the tube, because I don't use it that often, unfortunately. It's more of me going back and forth experimenting, but because it's been a bit, and those are very tiny tubes, the very tiny ones tend to dry up really easily. And so yeah, because I have bigger tubes that have lasted for a while, but the tiny ones, they barely last like 6 months. And for somebody that keeps messing around, going back and forth, and then is intensely creating artworks with it, it really kind of sucks. And I started getting back into doing more pose practice. I don't think I did these timed though, but it's yeah, I was feeling like because you saw the invincible ones, they were starting to feel stiff. I'm like, okay, I'll go back and back to drawing poses and practicing because I hadn't done it in a while. It's more like experimenting with medium. This is one of my favorite pieces within the sketchbook. It's it's partially referenced and partially just kind of made up. So I think there's a photograph in Pexels. That's usually where I get my references from. And so there was this dude, I think he was still sitting on a stool. I'm not sure. He was out, I think he was outside. I'm pretty sure he was smoking. I'm not sure. But I kind of referenced him, and then I did like, I guess, more of a side view and with the original character, just because another original character in the story I kind of came up with, it kind of matched his look. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna totally do that, and that was actually a lot of fun to attempt to do the shadows of a leather jacket, and yeah, and just entirely just ink washes, so that is quite fun. And then more muscle studies. That might have been just more of straight up just Google searching muscly men, or no, bodybuilders. That's usually what I go to, just because like some comic artists recommended that. So I did more of that. I think this is one of the go-tos because often very similar images will come up. And so just more practice of that, and also doing it with inking and just getting the shadows, because shadows are something of like the major thing, and just like getting a more muscle memory of the shape itself. And then I guess like a superhero outfit sketch, a really crappy mini sketch of Kyojiro there, and I think I was gonna sketch him more, but then I didn't, and then I moved on. For a meetup, I sketched them and the sticker that I'm selling, because we keep usually always as a meetup eat the Timbits. I don't even know if you can tell, but this is a sticker that I'm going to be selling, or the sketch of it basically. And and then I was watching, I don't know which episode of Invincible that was, but he was supposed to like marry the queen fish or something lady. I don't know what she was, but immediately this is what came to mind, so I had to pause and draw this out just because it was just the funniest like image in my head of him having to kiss a fish. And since she was a queen, so yeah, again, also one of my most favorite sketches in the sketchbook, just because I like how cleanly it ended up. I didn't really have to do much of any editing. I think the only editing I did when I brought it into Photoshop was just cleaning up the purple pencil, erasable pencil that I had. Didn't quite dissolve underneath when painting, so he did look like he had a little bit of a black eye, which, I mean, it's typical for Invincible, but in this case I just didn't want it there, so at least for this one. So yeah, more sketching some superhero outfits, and this was also some practice of sketching jackets, and just especially like folds and wrinkles are always tough, so I thought I'd just do a fun little thing of that, but with like a twist. And I think this was some gouache practice. This was with the watercolor pencil crayon. I switched to trying out that and having more subtle shading, because sometimes the extreme shades of like black can be very intense and a little bit more difficult for myself at least to get used to, so I thought it'd be kind of interesting to do that. I also probably saw some other artists doing that because that's typical. And this I think was just like with a little bit more use of the ink as well for the darkest parts, just because the watercolor will like sometimes like wash out, and so that's kind of what I did naturally. I ended up doing a Spider-Man version. I had a lot of fun, and I'm not even sure which brush I actually achieved getting like these streaks and lines, but that was a lot of fun. And then I was continuing on using the black watercolor pencil crayon, and then layering on with watercolor, just experimenting there. So that was one of my funnest experiments, I think, in the sketchbook. I definitely had fun doing this. And then again, I did it for Spider-Man. I first did all the black pencil crayon shading, and then layered the color on top with, I think this is mixed media, so with a whole bunch of different media, with watercolor, probably pencil crayon, not sure what else, but yeah, a whole bunch. I did make a larger version of this as well, and I can't remember if I recorded myself doing that one. So I like both versions of this Spider-Man drawing. Like this bigger one sort of feels different, but like different in not a bad way. I think I still managed to emulate the pose. I think it's because I transferred the pose also, so it stayed pretty good in that sense. So here was just me experimenting, mixing with skin colors. I can't remember if at this point I bought more or just was like mixing with the colors I had and was just figuring it out. It's kind of rough though, because I think I was like struggling and realizing I was having a hard time with mixing it. I'm just looking up, I think, more tutorials and using, I think these might have been from Pexels. I was like referencing some images here and there. But it turned out kind of weird, so yeah. A Risley sketch. I can't remember if I posted this anywhere or not. Somebody was talking in the group and they meant, they didn't mean, I can't remember what kind of guidance counselor. Yeah, they were trying to say guidance counselor, but they said gang counselor instead, so I decided to do like a fun little sketch of that because I thought that was really entertaining. And then I bought 3 more colors just to help with more convenience colors, I guess, because Naples yellow is in my mind, like for lighter skin tones, it is quite a bit of a convenience color. Just adding in, I think, can't remember what the color name is. Rose. There we go. It is Quinn Rose. Yeah, Quinn Rose is usually the one, or Quinn Rose or Quinn Pink. I just constantly mix in. I think it's Quinn Pink. Yeah, Quinn Pink I mix in with Naples Yellow, and it's kind of the standard go-to now. Also, I bought Mungio Vermilion because, yeah, it's nicer to have orange as a convenience mix because I'm lazy and convenience mixes are great. And then, I don't know if you've noticed, but Genshin seems to be like the thing that keeps reoccurring. And yeah, a quick sketch before I had actually done the final painting. Looking back at the final painting, I don't know what was with every time I was trying to paint Ayato's jawline. It just was really weird. It was like an amalgamation of Neuvillette and Ayato's face, and I don't know why I struggled so hard. I will probably redo that and try again. Oh, and I guess that's a Risley sketch too. I don't know if you can make that out. But yeah. And then this was for my best friend's birthday card because she loves Sailor Mars. And the thing with anime girls, I have a hard time drawing them because of the big eyes. Like every time I draw big-eyed kind of characters, it just, for me, it just doesn't really look as good. So that's usually why I keep sticking to drawing anime guys. Just because of the eye shape, I believe. And then there was like a weekly prompt for the meetup thing, and I think somebody said Dragon Ball, but they did not specify the show, so, and I actually never watched Dragon Ball Z, so for fun, I just I purposely just wanted to draw a dragon with a ball then, and so that was a lot of fun actually, and I think I used a masking fluid for the thunder to really turn out well, so yeah. More pose practice and more Kyojiro sketches. I think I was trying to create a sketch for a final, though that's still sitting on my iPad, not complete. I was looking back at it and I think I would have to redo the face. I was not happy with it. More pose practice, and then sometimes I go back and just fill it with practicing drawing lines, just because I'm pretty horrible at drawing straight lines. Like, I don't need them to be a roller straight often, but sometimes when I'm drawing a cityscape, I just really hate it when it goes really diagonal as opposed to, you know, remotely straight. So it's nice every once in a while to just practice it, just to get like a more stable hand. I don't know. It seems to work, so yeah, because like, for example, for this, I guess this is a perfect example of it. Like, I think that the lines of the rails is fine, and being able to have lines going in the right direction, it's a lot easier for me to do this than it was, I guess, before or something. So yeah, this is another spread that I actually really enjoyed, because it was like, this is when I started practicing and doing a little bit more simplified lines, and not necessarily worrying too much about line weight and thickness in most cases. I think there's like a little bit there, but I just went for straight simple. And I think even this, the pen I was using isn't even waterproof, but yeah, so light washes, And I also really like the light purple and light yellow washes. Also, I just picture this original character would be very chaotic. And he would probably order like all the different types of jellies you could get. There are, I think, some drinks that do offer like a ton of different options of jellies in one, which I tend to order too. I don't like too much of it because a couple of times I did order ones with like 3 different ones. I realized it was just way too much. You get like way too full and bloated in one go. And more random sketches and which I thought these actually turned out pretty nice. And then more pose sketches. And then for a bubble tea place, they had a collaboration with Jujutsu Kaisen, so I kind of just like, I wasn't sure where to put the sticker and the thing that wraps around the bubble tea. So I just stuck it in my sketchbook, and I also then did Gojo sketches. So that was kind of fun because I don't really do those often, just like straight up sketching anime characters. So I thought that was fun because yeah, he's kind of fun to draw, and it's also like a slightly fun challenge. I don't know what it is, but I think there's like a certain color that I've used for skin tone that just ends up looking way too pale after I've already done it. So this was like the same for some other sketch that I had done, and I just notice it now that was definitely not the intent. This was a sketch for a final piece I did. I don't remember if I did a time-lapse for it or not, but there's definitely a complete one. I'll pop the image if I remember. A sketch for a painting for my mom for Christmas, I believe. That's what I did. And then this was very random, chaotic sketching. Just whatever. I can't even remember. Oh, I think it was just because of that Jujutsu Kaisen episode with all the rabbits being summoned. So that was probably the inspiration of this one. I think originally it was just like poses or something in this one, and it was more like just my brain was just like exploding with random doodles, which is kind of fun. So yeah, probably the funnest one. Then me sketching. Here's some reference studies of people reading, because I knew I was gonna draw a final piece with Al Hatham in it, and he's a total muscle book nerd. And then a random, I guess, sketch with him. I was trying out how it would look like if you did green line art, which the thing about always going with like lighter colors for the line art, it doesn't actually look good as the final, so going over it with darker would have probably been better, but oh well. This one I think was just more of different color lines matching, for example, hair and stuff, which kind of turned out better than this, for sure. I think is it Yoimiya? I think I was attempting to draw her, and again, anime girls and me, I kind of like the way this turned out much better, just because drawing her with the style of eyes I prefer, as opposed to more anime eyes. I'm just bad at that. I have zero practice at it, and I'm not necessarily like into also drawing the big eyes, so that's just how it turns out. More, I guess, studies of people reading, and more sketches. I think I was like talking with a friend or something, so we were joking around, and that's how that sketch showed up. I'm not even sure if it comes up because it is green. And then I forget what I needed to practice sketches of. Oh yeah, sketches of people lying down is like one of the most biggest struggles. So I wasn't necessarily going for a murdered victim look sort of thing, but more of just somebody lying down. I think it was just when I googled, that's what came up. They were just iStock images, by the way, nothing sketchy that popped up. So yeah, if you're wondering, I was not. Yeah. This is one of my favorite sort of experiments with the way the colors turned out in the line art. Yeah, the faces themselves look a little bit weird and not 100% successful, but I just like the look of the way that it turned out with like the kind of reddish line art for the face and everything. So that was fun. I was gonna try and do a cityscape, but failed, so there's that. Some references of people drinking coffee or tea or something. Can't remember what exactly that was for, because often when I'm doing the reference stuff, it's because I'm prepping to draw something else. I was bored, so I started doodling faces without using, I think, any construction lines, as they say. Then I had a dream that I was in a cooking show. So that's kind of me emulating my dream, and I think I was using some reference, so that's kind of why. I think this was probably a partial reference, and then this was just completely imaginary. But he was not actually on fire in the in the reference. That's just how it's turned out. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I had a nightmare. I was in a cooking competition. I didn't even realize I wrote that down there. Brilliant. Then I decided to draw kind of like a simple wintry scape scene, which was a lot of fun. Sometimes these simple sketches are like some of the most fun you can do. So yeah, I mean, this is halfway through, by the way, if you were wondering just how much there is. Feel free to fast forward to any parts you like, because again, some of these pages are just not even worth talking about much. This one, I can't remember entirely. It was a mix of being inspired by just seeing at first the Dan Hung character's image of HSR before I even started playing, plus I think something about The Witcher or something, and it reminded me of that forest sort of creature that you run into that doesn't looks way less pleasant than this character does. So I thought, how about a more pleasant forest spirit guy or something? So that was kind of like the inspiration with the horns and deers and forest and stuff like that. So I really wanted to use green ink also randomly because I think I was craving spring. So that's the whole reasoning behind that. So I really enjoyed doing this. It was quite fun. And then I think I just continued trying to sketch him a bit more. These kind of turned out like not weird and not as great, so I didn't continue it. And just more sketches. Another attempt of him, but then it kind of looked like that butterfly meme, and then I just stopped because it really bugged me that it looked like that, so I just like added this, and yeah, it is what it is. I can't remember if I was going to attempt to do another final piece, but yeah. Then more sketches. I think I got some colored felt pens, and this was just completely random from my imagination sketching practice. Then more practice and some fun original character drawing practice, because I realized I hadn't drawn him much, and I just felt like drawing him in the sort of ice cream shirt that I kind of find as like one of his like classic staples. Plus I decided I wanted to have him like with longer hair, so I was kind of trying that out and messing around with that. This was just some kind of failed attempt, so then I ended up filling it with like, you know, the line filler. Inspired by HSR kind of thing. I wasn't really sure what I was going for, and it's kind of like the back of like, I think one of the characters. Not really anything particularly special or worth noting, and more complete inspiration by HSR characters, but kind of giving my own twist to it, sort of variant. I really like the color palette of is it Kafka or something, so I was just like kind of like stealing that like complete inspiration for one of my original characters, so like an outfit kind of emulating hers. So that was quite fun, an enjoyable palette. More pose references and more character experiments, and then this is also more references of drawing an umbrella, because it was like a talk of how like everyday objects, you know what they look like, but sometimes when you start drawing them you realize you don't really know what they look like when you want to actually completely draw them. And I thought it would be fun to try and draw rain. And so I really enjoyed the way this turned out with like the washes and stuff like that. You know, sometimes when you put like the least amount of effort and don't expect much of something, sometimes it turns out the most interesting, because I love the washiness of the umbrella and everything. So yeah, this is also one of my favorite pages that just randomly happened to happen. And I can't recall what this was. A bunch of coats also properly references. I think this was intended to be some kind of funny comic thing, but I don't really know if it's like referencing any other characters I had in mind or something. More practice. This was like the final sketch for a character drawing that I did, which is kind of funny because I like the sketchbook version of it way more than the final. Then this was me doing more rounds of trying out some ideas for new stickers that I'm going to be drawing. I like this like Dan Hung chibi. No, this definitely would need work for the Jing Yuan. I think I butchered his name. And the newbie one is kind of funny looking, so these would definitely need more work. But I think I've already completely digitally cleaned that up, or just digitally redid it, which is, I'm still debating whether I kind of actually like the original one. But the problem, when you draw the size that you originally want the sticker to be, or even like a bit smaller, scaling it up can be a little bit hit or miss. So that's kind of why I recreated it digitally, and I'll probably add some texture to it or something. I really wanted to do cat drawings in this case. I'm past my raccoon phase, now I'm in the cat drawing phase. Some more forest attempts. I wanted to do, sort of try and do the whole thing of like forest going back and all the trees are going back, or I guess more blending in with the background but still having line art. And I think this kind of turned out pretty neat. I definitely enjoyed this, and I probably want to do more tree paintings or tree forest paintings like this. You know, I might actually even do the tree spirit guy in a final image. I just kind of forgot about him as I keep moving on. So it's always a good idea, like here's a pro tip, if you are actually feeling like you have art block and you're not sure what to draw, just go back through your sketchbook, like a complete sketchbook, and see if any original characters or even, you know, fan art that you did, and just think, oh, maybe I could draw that better, or maybe I could draw like a final version of that or something. So there you go. Tip if you're feeling art block. Hope that helps. So this was more reference studies. This was actually a high effort one, sort of, and then this one turned into a disaster and I kind of got lazy and gave up. Not all references, I guess you can always have time for it then. So, more original sketches of my original character in sort of a, I guess you could say, cooler outfit. And I kind of was picturing him, maybe he has some kind of scythe. I did not actually look up any scythe references, so I know this probably looks very random and also very jank, so it's more of this part that I like, and all the sketches that I did versus actual one. I do have some digital sketches I might actually post, like quick YouTube shorts or something of, because I realize I don't know if I've actually posted anything other than the, well, I think I did post the sketches, but not the time lapses of those. Then I finally found Derwent Inktense. I kept trying to find like a smaller pack online that wasn't too expensive, but sometimes with Amazon it'll be more overpriced than buying in store, but like also in store it was always out of stock. So I had a rough time finding it, then I ran into it, and I just wanted to kind of have a 12 pack of kind of watercolor pencils, or, well, I know Inktense are more like inky, but either way, something like that. Just for certain areas when I'm working on watercolor paintings, I kind of like the option of having them, and I don't need like a huge range of them either. So first thing I always like to draw is attempt to draw with new art supplies seems to be Spider-Man. So this was just a really quick rendition. I didn't even add the actual spider thing or the line art, but I did like the way that the colors turned out, so it's always great. I think it's mostly because Spider-Man has like primary colors, or at least 2 of them on him, so that's probably why I gravitate usually to painting him, because it's the simplest and you don't have to do a ton of color mixing just to get him down. This was some kind of random experimentation, going for some kind of style thing, wasn't really sure what. So, some more random sketches, and then I got the idea to, I can't remember, I think I saw some kind of drawing of just like a character doing everyday stuff, and I thought, you know what, that would be kind of fun, rather than trying to do some kind of crazy action pose in a cityscape, because I'm still too lazy to draw a full-on cityscape, so a kitchen scene of making a meal sounds fun, and kind of ended up doing it. There was a reference photo I think I used of it, and I'm not entirely sure if I linked it, but I did change quite a bit around, and obviously my own character is standing there doing the stuff, so yeah. There's that. Then I decided to draw like different elements I think that would be in a bedroom of my original character, because I was thinking I was going to do another like everyday scene of him playing video games or doing something, but I definitely didn't end up doing that. I realized I hadn't picked up my ink brush and doing any inking with a brush for a while, so I decided I was going to try that out. And I continued with doing some more experimentation. So this was fun because it's not normally what I do, these like really random whimsical shapes and stuff like that. And so I thought it was just kind of fun to let loose and try and do more experimentation because I realized I hadn't done it much. You know, some of these faces are kind of, in my opinion, kind of meh and really not great to look at, but it was fun to just practice and mess around. And I think it was also attempting again to draw bigger eyes, but every time I do that with characters, mostly I hate it. This was actually a more successful reference thing, breaking down into boxes, kind of like Lindsay said, so it's like kind of very comic-y, and so I had a lot more fun with this, doing it without any line art, and then doing a scene with a little bit of line art, and then a cityscape, just figuring out different washes, because sometimes it's just fun to like figure out like what washes and colors work, so it's always a fun thing to try out. And then this, I guess, was the only time I was successful with making girls with bigger eyes, I suppose. And I think there was some reference involved in these two, and then I don't know, I don't really particularly like that one. More random poses. It's like I do less and less on a page every time. It's funny if I filled up with line art at least. I hated the sketch underneath here, so then I painted with, I guess, acrylic wash, and then I did another sketch on top, which I actually turned out liking quite a bit because I thought it was kind of fun. We're getting closer to the end. I painted again, and then over sketches I really hated on the other side as well. But I didn't end up drawing anything on top though, unfortunately. And then this was, I guess, like, this is an umbrella I drew completely from my imagination. So look, I've improved. I don't need to look at an umbrella anymore to draw it. Funny enough, it's one of those things where I get to screw up the shape and I forget about the amount of the edges that it has or something. It's just like one of those things where my brain could not remember. And I was trying out different experimenting on how to paint rain. Not the biggest fan of it, and plus it kind of got really messy on the way the water is hitting the umbrella. It just doesn't look like it. It looks bad. More thumbnails of something, some random springy kind of magazine-like sketch for myself, nothing important. And these in particular were sketches that I was figuring out what pose for Kazuha to do for the final Kazuha painting. I ended up going with this one, but the reason why I actually ended up doing a final painting is because I think I made this arm too short and it bugged me, so I just really wanted to do over, just to also like paint the colors and stuff better. Although I do like the background, the way the washes turned out more. I'm not entirely sure if it's the paper or whatever, but yeah, it was still an enjoyable process overall, and I do enjoy doing stuff like this because I think it kind of turned out like a fun little sketch layout overall. So yeah, another tip, I guess, when you're planning to do any finals is doing like some planning and looking at some poses and stuff like that always helps, because it just kind of makes it more fun and you kind of get more drawings and ideas from it. I'm planning to do that pose for something else too, so there we go, I got another one. And plus I did end up using that chibi in the video or something. And I might turn that also into a little sticker or something for fun. This was actually me starting to practice more doing with ink brush, because I hadn't touched it in a while and I planned to ink him with it, and so I was a bit rusty. And I did an entire practice piece of a image. This is also from a photo or something I was just like randomly referencing. And more original character sketches. I think I was trying to figure out, although it's supposed to be all the same character, but like it all kind of, or at least for that one, turned out looking very, very different. So it's just trying to get the character to look the same is kind of the practice. More doodling. And the character eating also, because it's like tacos are his favorite food. And I have this like made up place called Taco King or something that I enjoy using as like the location or whatever. I kind of really like the way this turned out. Like I always kind of like the gradient wash backgrounds and fun stuff like that, or coloring stuff in like this. It always turns out looking the most fun. It's like the simplest thing to do, and it's also a lot of fun. Then the other original character, I was attempting, like I had dreamed up some outfit for her, but I couldn't actually figure out how it was going. So it was basically like feeling like AI when you see how all the clothing is going wrong while I was trying to draw it. That's kind of how the vibes I was getting, where I'm like, I don't actually know how this outfit connects or works at all, and it's not working, so I'm just gonna stop. So that was entertaining. I can't remember what I pulled out of here. It might have been for a birthday card. This is a sketch, which I don't even think you can see, which I might turn into something. Then, the funny thing is I had, because I always find it entertaining for made-up food places to create some crazy gross thing. Or, well, at least it kind of sounds a little weird and gross to have, like, pasta in a taco. It sounds very bizarre. Maybe it wouldn't taste as bad, but I don't know. It's probably something people who want tacos wouldn't want. So that's kind of why I did it on purpose, not to make like to make the weirdest kind of choice, just because like the main character kind of likes to go with the weirdest choices. This was, I don't even know what, just another random like me sketching out characters, and it's one of those, I don't know, pinup sort of attempt, and I'm kind of brain empty drawing. It's like one of those things where you kind of need bad pancakes, and that's why a sketchbook is perfect. It might have also been that I was slowly getting closer to the end of the sketchbook, so then it's a bit more sparse and not as full. This is actually a page spread I did enjoy, because I was like, let's draw something I hadn't drawn in a while, and you know what, animals are something I don't draw often, so let's just draw some horses. And that's kind of what I did, and then I decided to make it more fun and whimsical, coloring it in. And I really enjoyed using these markers because, or the felt tip pen, these particular felt tip pens are not waterproof, so they kind of make these really fun little, I don't know if you can see, but they kind of turn that sort of like purpley weird color, and I don't even think I ended up really filling these in with any watercolor, just like the ink itself was spreading, which was pretty neat. I don't know if entirely all of these were very successful attempts at horses, but it was still fun to do. And then the Aventurine character came out, and I thought he looked really cool and really fun to draw, and I thought it would be kind of a fun challenge. So I figured, why not? I really love the color palette. That's probably the main reason. I love this color. So that's kind of why I went with it. And I was really determined to make an almost finished piece, really complete, and just really push myself with the coloring of the skin and everything, just, you know, not leave it too washed out. I think the most screwed up thing is maybe like the eye, the shape or something, but everything else I really enjoyed working on this. This was so much fun. And then I did another kind of like Aventurine image here, which I didn't want to actually paint this one in. I kind of like the way the line art looks, so I just left it as is. Thought that was quite fun to paint, or to paint to ink. And then this was actually the third thing I did, and then that's around when the Aventurine craze kind of went in, just because I had way too much fun painting him, just because I love peacocks. I love I love the color palette. Everything about it was just kind of a joy to paint, and so it was just way too much fun. And plus the top hats, I don't know, everything about it, and like cards and the whole aesthetic of Penacony is quite wild and so much fun in terms of that. So yeah, that's kind of why I went through an Aventurine craze. I didn't get the character. I barely play HSR, just kind of like log in and just mess around with it as like a fun little thing. The reason why I enjoy Genshin is just because like it's an open world. It's kind of fun to play. It's a little bit more brain dead. I just started playing God of War Ragnarok, and I don't know if it's my controller, but it's just one of those things where you actually have to remember to parry and put more effort in the fights. So this painting I was actually not painting at home, so it was off-site, and off-site. It was at a meetup, an art meetup, and so I was using my travel palette, which sometimes gets very messy and kind of like muddied up colors. So I sometimes struggle with the painting the face and everything. But I actually was fairly happy with how the colors turned out. These are also, I think Rosa Gallery colors, the full pens, and then these are just some mix between, I think, the leftover Winsor & Newton Cotman, and I think that one's a Schmincke yellow or something, because the set I bought for Anyway, the whole point is it can sometimes be a struggle when you're using these water brushes and you have like a tiny palette because the colors kind of start getting muddied up. So I was really trying to focus on really getting all the vibrant colors right, and I think it turned out fairly successful for a quick sketch. And then somebody, I guess, was prompting me to do a meetup of two different characters, one from one game and one from another. So it's Dan Hung and Nouvelette, and they're from like two different MiHoYo games. In context, this character creates this like ladle or something, and it was like gifting the main character that. So I thought it'd be really funny if you don't know the context of the characters. It's fine. I thought it was like a fun, quick little sketch because I had less time to work on that, and I didn't really feel like completing it fully. So this is just a bad sketch, please ignore this. Sometimes I go into this thing where I randomly decide to ink something even though it shouldn't have been inked. And it just doesn't solve any of the anatomy problems, and it's a really like brain break moment of I just wasted an entire page for nothing. This one in particular, we went to a comedy show and one of the people was pretending to be a bald eagle pet or something. So I realized, hey, you know what? I haven't actually drawn bald eagles. I think I drew them like once randomly or something, and I thought that would kind of be fun to draw. And I decided to use the watercolor pencil crayons I had, just because when I was looking at references, I thought it'd be kind of fun to make them look a little bit more whimsical, because I just thought it would be kind of cool. Also, bald eagles kind of look like quite the characters, so I really like the way this one turned out, like looking a bit derpy. And the next one is of the eagle taking a suitcase full of mice and leaving, because that's kind of how it went down in the skit, which I find is probably a good way to end the sketchbook. Instead, there's like some really random sketches, but we're not going to talk about that. We're going to pretend like this is the very end. And yeah, that is the entire chonky beast of this sketchbook. If you have gotten this far in the video, thanks so much for watching. I know it was quite the long video, so I hope you enjoyed.